you?
Oh my God, Saeed, hello.
It's good to see you again. Man.
Wow. I mean, well, welcome back to our podcast.
Two writers.
Talking shit.
Yes.
We've got an outstanding guest today, also from the Bay Area.
Yes.
She is a superstar literary manager. Please welcome to the pod, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Oh my God, Jen, we're so excited that you're here. Okay, now, Jen and I have known each other a long time, and I kind of really went back to a special place in time, kind of just thinking about when we met. So when we met, I was in New York, Jen was here in LA, and she was a literary agent assistant.
Okay.
And I was working for a man, I'll call him a filmmaker, for lack of a better term. And his literary agent was Jen's boss. So that's how we met. We were doing kind of like a bi-coastal relationship, me and Jen. I had one colleague at the time, my friend Eric Krugli.
He's still a good friend.
He was still a good friend. He's he's the best. He's
Yeah.
the best. No, I one time in our, because it was just me and Eric in the office, there was one time I saw, there was something that happened, there was, I don't know, it was some kind of cinematographer or something was kind of really trying to take advantage of me because I clearly didn't know what was going on. And he was trying to tell me that he wasn't going to be able to send his kids to college if we didn't hire him. It was so wildly inappropriate because we had already hired some other cinematographer. And so I hung up the phone. I started weeping so hysterically, and poor Eric was I've never seen anyone cry like that before in my life. I think it haunts him to this day. I feel so bad about it.
Shit.
It was just a different time. It was a different time. A lot of tears in the office kind of time. Hopefully less tears in the office for you. But one of the things that really sticks out to me, I don't know if you remember this, Jen, is that shortly after your boss took on my boss as a client, he had sent her this script. And she gave him notes, which I think is pretty normal for a lit agent to do. And then he was like, oh, you know what? He's like, go ahead and send my lit agent a check for $10K.
Oh, shit.
He tipped her for giving him notes.
Wow. That's dope.
Wow. I don't remember that, but
Yeah, I'm sure it went, because I'm sure it didn't go through the channels. You know what I mean? It went straight into her B of A checking account. But it was just kind of crazy because also it's he was absolutely not paying me a living wage. And so I was okay,
Right.
And then he would also have these writers who would come in to just kind of brainstorm with him, shoot ideas around and give him notes. And he would pay each of them $5K every time they would come in to have lunch with him and shoot the shit. Meanwhile, I'm okay, that was as much as I made in 3 months working for him. It was a crazy time.
It was. Yeah. I don't think a lot of people were making a living wage, and that also is probably true now in LA for some young people coming up, but unfortunately, but yeah.
Damn. I know. But anyways, we made it through that time. It was a dark time. Jen rose up the ranks.
Yeah.
She stayed in the business. She's now, a top literary manager.
Fire.
First of all, what just kind of thinking back to that time, I'm I can't imagine being in a position of someone who's oh, I'm working at an agency or I'm working at a management company and not quitting. I only lasted at that job 2 years. You know what I mean? So it's how did you hold your mind together?
Yeah, it's self-care. Let's just open up that conversation. Mental health for everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's true for everybody that being in this business is sort of resilience is an extreme sport. And I think it's important to remember your why. And I think there's so many times, and I've done this, where it's just you put your head down and you're I've got a goal. This is my goal. I've got to get off the desk. I get promoted. And you just do it and you grind and you hustle. And then sometimes you get there and you're is this what I wanted? Is this how I wanted to do it? Is this, all of that? And I think it's just constant readjustment in your career. And I think, it's completely natural given the craziness of our business that we constantly ask ourselves. And I think we should, because it takes everything you have and then more. And this business changes a lot of people and all of that. So I think just a lot of recentering and really just trying to find the joy in what we do and really a supportive community around you. and like a lot of, friends like you have known for years, Krugly, like one of my best friends is from, the 5th grade, just people are going to check you too. Like be your biggest cheerleaders, but also just keep you as grounded as possible. Especially because, a lot of times, like, especially coming up, in those days, like the stuff that was giving me stress and adrenal problems and all of that was really a lot of bullshit. Like, you think about it, or just dealing with egos and whatnot. And so, I think just trying to move through it as best you can.
Well, it's impressive. And I was also kind of thinking, because it's like Jen is one of the few people I consider like an authentic person in the business, which is why I'm always like, I can never lose you. You know what I mean?
That's tight.
Because it's so like few and far between. Obviously, we're the real ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
100%.
operating with integrity. Yeah. But we're for sure like in the minority. And like something I've kind of been thinking about a lot is like the soft no. And so it's like, I think before, like maybe a writer, you might go pitch a place and then they would come back to your reps and they would say, it's a pass, or like, we're developing something similar or whatever they say. And now a lot of times it's like, you just don't hear back. Like, it's kind of like ghosting has kind of permeated the professional sphere. And I was like,
I agree.
I don't understand why that's considered like okay.
Oh, yeah. I was looking at me like I could give you, I don't know the answer to that. I 1,000% would prefer the quick no than the slow death maybe.
Yeah.
And granted, sometimes people are doing due diligence or whatever they have to do. And I get it. I think right now we're in such a crazy, volatile time, and there's a lot of reactivity and a lot of fear. And, people are worried about their jobs too, right? And so, every bet that they take, every yes that they give comes with so much. It's not just yes, it's okay, I'm going to have to package this, I'm going to be giving notes, I'm doing all of this. And so I understand that it's a choice. But yeah, I wish the no's sometimes were a little clearer.
Or a little faster.
Yeah.
Like I'm like in week 3 waiting on some company, and it's just like, oh, well, shit.
Yeah. It's like ghosting.
Yeah.
I find it so disheartening, honestly.
Yeah. And sometimes you never know. Like you can wait, forever for a read back on something, and all of a sudden someone writes you 6 months from now saying, you're like, I want to do it. You're like, okay.
Yeah, I heard that too. This one writer I know, she was like, she pitched a place and then thought it was dead, and then like 6 weeks later they're like, oh yeah, so we're interested in doing that thing. It's like, what? Like I had completely written that off. So it is weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also sort of hate this was really a hard concept for me to kind of grasp when I moved here, which is that nobody ever wants to burn a bridge, right?
Yeah.
So somebody can wrong you so badly, professionally or personally, and you just never really tell that person to fuck off. You just keep following them online. You like some dumbass picture of their baby. Like you can never kind of really say anything bad about them in public. Like it's tough for me. That's really tough for me. Jen's like, not for me.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I think you have some very specific people in your mind.
I absolutely do. Love, really want to rip out some redacted names right now.
Nice.
But something Saeed and I have been talking about recently is IP, and this massive fixation on IP to a degree that's kind of crazy. Saeed was actually developing a show based on a song, which we don't need to name any names, but do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, no, I mean, a company had a song. They came to me with the song and said they wanted to do a television show based off the song. And what's funny is because I had never heard of that before. You know what I mean? I thought okay, you do IP based off of books or a spinoff of an already franchise. And I'm like, damn, we're down to songs now, tweets. And so, it was interesting because, you develop a show off of one part of a song, not even the full song. And then, you're working for months developing this show. And then unfortunately they didn't get the rights to the song. And then the show is no more because God forbid you make a show without IP. So it's just an interesting thing, a time we're in where you can actually make a show based off IP, which is actually a tweet or a song or just damn near anything really.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it comes down to them wanting to see that there was an audience somewhere and someone already said yes in some form or somehow, and something that they can point to. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, me and my writing partner, Bixby, we're developing a show that is not really based on a website, but we'll just say it's titled after a popular website. Obviously it's like we've come up with like all of our own ideas, original characters, whatever. But so our producers who are attached, like one of the things that were so excited to them is they were like, wow, it's IP, because it's based off of this website. We were like, is it? But okay, so one of the things that like as writers we should always be doing is looking for like books, articles, like podcasts that we think could be good TV shows or films for us to write. So let's say I'm a writer, Saeed's a writer. So crazy we have this podcast about writing. And I listen to an amazing podcast or I read this book and I think, oh my God, I'm the person to translate this for the screen. So I ask my manager, I say, Jen, are the rights available? Jen finds out if the rights are available. The rights are available. Now what am I doing as the writer?
I think there's so many layers, right? And it's more of, okay, are there producers that you already have a working relationship with that you think would be right to bring to them? Right. Are you looking to get a shopping agreement? Are you looking to put an option in place? I think it has to do with the how sparkly the book is, right? Like if the rights are available, who actually holds the rights? Did the author, it was a self-published book? Is it through, publisher? Do they already have a book to film person or book to TV, whatever it is, designated to them? Your rep can talk to that person. I often find too that the personal, I think author is different, but sometimes let's say you wanted to personally write the author, and just have a passionate discussion of why you really want to work on their book. Sometimes that goes a really long way. Yeah. But it's always hard for me to say to a client that you should be putting any money out of your own pocket. Right. Right. And it's one of those things of, but it varies on the book and the package, but can you have someone else option it for you? Or is there a version that you can get the shopping agreement and then take the project to someone and then have them option and move it from there? But there's always moving parts. And the thing I think you have to keep in mind is whatever you're doing, keeping an eye on the clock, right, of when it starts ticking. Because sometimes it's like, okay, we can do this and get it for free for 6 months. And then it's like, okay, well, are you planning to write something? Are you planning, do you have those materials? Because the first thing, if someone comes to me for one of my clients with a piece of IP, one of my first questions is, how long do you have the rights for? And who holds those rights? Right. Because even though they're coming to me, I don't know when it is. And sometimes maybe they've tried and failed already and they're coming to me with 2 months left on a clock. And there's normally an extension, but, it's who's going to trigger that. So those are things to consider. But yeah, you could bring it to, a studio deal. You could bring it to producer, but it just depends on who would be footing that bill and what you need to put together. Do you feel like this is something that you are going to pitch, or is it something that you are going to spec? And it's so tricky to spec something that you don't control. So sometimes you just have to figure out a way to put it together.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had a Zoom with the writer of Black Klansman, and so they had reached out to the writer of the book before Spike Lee, and so it was interesting because with him he was like, the guy who wrote the book was totally down with it and was like a good collaborator and like understood the process. But then there's the other side where you get somebody and they don't understand the process, or they're not easy to work with. And so to me, that's the only kind of scary thing about dealing with that. It's like you don't really know what you're going to get till you get involved, which, like you said, it could be like a year-long option, and then in week 4 you're like, oh, this is a month floor, you're like, this is hell, like, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah, I think that's important to have those conversations as early as possible, even before you enter that, because to your point, someone, sometimes an author does want to be involved, and some people don't at all. They see it as a completely separate thing, and and some people, you reach out for rights, and then you realize the author wants to adapt it themselves. So yeah, I think it's just like a lot of things in this business. I think it's about communication and managing expectations.
Yeah, that's smart.
So a writer shouldn't really be thinking about ponying up their own money, though, in terms of like getting an option on let's call it a book?
On a thing. I think it depends. You know, I think it's one of those, if this is one of those you're going to go to your grave without getting it things, you know, and it's one of those books that rarely comes up, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, it's available. Like, I need to try to do this.
Yeah.
Then, you know, I think that's a certain kind of situation. Because sometimes it is, you'll just keep checking on a book and it'll be, you know, unavailable for years and years and years. It'll say it an extension, and then all of a sudden it'll be available. And are you willing to take that shot that it goes away, right? But I think it's having that conversation, you know, of, can I get a shopping agreement in place, which sometimes also costs money, you know, and ranges wildly on what the numbers are. But, you know, sometimes like, okay, can I get that so I at least have something papered to be able to build everything else? Yeah. And it's just case by case basis, as you said. It's about the author, it's about who the rights holder and how amenable they are to everything.
Yeah, and also I've heard different stories of different amounts. So it's like some of the upcoming writers that's listening, it's like, you know, sometimes it could be $500, sometimes it could be $1,000, it could be $5,000. Like it really depends. Like I've heard options for many different prices.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of zeros on that.
Yeah,
Depends.
yeah.
No, I've definitely heard from authors that they're like, oh yeah, this was optioned, and they get paid like $5,000. Like I thought I didn't even have that in the realm of possibility in my mind that the number could be that low. I thought it would just be so much more.
Yeah, I mean, it also like she said, it depends on the book also. Like, you know, like if it's like a rare book that which is something I've been thinking about lately, which is like, look, the big books are getting swooped up by all the agencies. And so if you have a small book that hasn't really done well, but it has some idea that you can kind of take that idea and flip into something, then that might be something where you do pay, you know, $5,000 or $1,000 for something that you could turn into a show. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and then there's creating your own IP, which
Well, yeah, I mean, I've literally been thinking
How many
about like
things do we have to do?
I know, but I've literally thought like I should just write a book,
the novel. I know.
get the book published,
It's like
have the
every
rights to
screenwriter.
my own book. Then
know.
you know what I mean? I almost felt like it's easier to get a movie or a TV show made from a book that I get published
I
than
agree.
to sell.
you could also just write the short story. That's also
Oh yeah. Oh, that's
that
smart.
happens these
That's
days.
smart.
Yeah, break that down because I
Yeah.
have been hearing about this short story thing. Like, I do see where like, damn, what was the movie, the Alien movie that
like there's so many.
Arrival's from a short.
But where does the short story go?
And where does it exist? Like, break this down.
Yeah,
for me.
Right.
like as an
yeah.
article, we know, okay, it could be like New York Times Modern Love, or like there's so many places an article or an essay could go, but where does the short story live?
Well, it just allows someone to have a piece of, you know, IP, even if it's not published
Right.
anywhere.
Really?
You don't have to. I mean, I have done it where someone's written sample chapters of something that then we set up, and then we went and did a book deal.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'd already optioned it as IP, then set up a separate book deal,
Yeah.
and then they would publish that. So, you know, there's that. And now it's to your point about, you know, everyone using every little piece. You know,
Yep.
it used to be the novels, and then it was now short stories, and then there's songs, and there's Reddit columns, and there's all that. But, you know, if writing it as a short story allows there to be something that is a different, you know, medium for them to kind of look at and see. So you could create that for yourself.
So we should be writing short stories. is what
Yeah,
I'm
I thought
hearing.
about it. Like, you know, this is the thing. It's like I've thought about this before. You know, like I'm like, all right, well, I'll just write a book.
Yeah, me too.
That takes a that's.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's like
daunting task.
just write a book.
No, I know,
like,
but that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
I think, and then even, you know, it's like, it's just a lot you have to do. But yeah, I do agree. Like, you do have to start thinking about creating your own IP. One thing I was thinking about was like graphic novels, maybe, you know, even if I self-publish these things, like, you know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't cost that much, and you don't have to sell that many copies of a book. Like, that's the funny thing is like, I've heard different authors talk about, well, yeah, this book sold a couple thousand copies, and then it got like, so it's not like you have to sell 1 million copies of a book.
Okay, so we could self-publish is what you're saying.
You could self-publish a
My,
book.
my father has a self-published autobiography. Do you think I should try to get the rights for it?
Definitely. Definitely. And I know the story, so yes, you need to get that.
Just get his life rights. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good.
Oh my God. I got to get them quick though. Okay, Jen, let's talk about your clients. How do most of your clients come to you?
Most of them through referral of
Okay.
some form or another. Yeah.
Nice.
Now, is it like friend referrals or like a professional referral? What kind of referral?
All across the board. I think that's from whether that's from a lawyer or an agent or a producer or a friend or a client recommending someone else, which is always lovely. I still do look at all the query letters. There's a lot of them, but I will look through.
Okay.
But normally it comes through some other source.
Some form of vetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, or the competitions. And
Oh, okay. Wait, so you look at the competition like winners?
Sometimes I have people reach out to me from, if it's a nickel, then that's everywhere. But, if it's a final draft, screen craft, like all that, like sometimes you just get, here are our winners. Are there anybody you'd like to take a look at? That sort of thing.
And what kind of material, like what kind of voice really appeals to you?
Oh, hard question. I always say it's more like the definition of pornography. I don't know it till I see it. I can't quite, it's not like magic. Yeah,
Oh my God.
but yeah, I think it's I think it's one about what's on the page or on the screen, right?
Yeah.
Working with writers, directors, I have to really connect to the work, but I also, because I'm a manager and I do development, and I really do think of management as a partnership,
100%.
that, it's really about the person, and it's about my ability to feel that we can have an honest, transparent, communicative relationship with each other. So yeah, that's where it stems from.
And like, I feel like you keep a tight roster. I feel like you're not like one of these managers that's like, let me sign like 100 people and then like forget who 50 of them are. So I feel like it's very selective for you. Are you open to new clients?
Yeah, I think I'm always, looking and open, and I think it has to do with what is where my bandwidth is, and what the other person needs and where they are, right? And I think it's something about writers being ready for this business. It's not just what's on the page; it's a mindset.
Goodness gracious,
totally.
It's not.
Totally.
And it's like I can talk to someone, and I can normally tell within 5-10 minutes if it's a possibility. And so, I really do, I treat my job as the responsibility of my job. So if I don't feel that I have the time to give to what this person needs, or if I'm just not the right fit, right? Because I think we as managers, we do similar jobs and our different styles, but it could just be I'm not aligning with this person's sensibility exactly, or I can just feel like personality wise we're not going to be the best match, and that is not going to be in the benefit of either of us. So yeah.
How much work do you look for your writer to produce?
When they are coming to me, or when I'm already working with them?
When you're working with them, like in a year, I guess. Is there a number? Is there someone like for instance, like what's a good client?
In terms of like material, yeah, and it has so much to do with what's going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Where are they? I think if I can get 2 or 3 pieces of material,
Yeah.
super happy, right? Film, television, because there is also too much.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right?
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
And I think that there is, and I think this podcast is for like emerging people,
yes, for
people wanting.
upcoming writers,
So
yeah.
the thing is, awesome when you finish something. Congratulations. Just because something's done doesn't mean it's good,
100%.
right? Or when they think it's
100%.
done in quotes, and you're quoting on a podcast.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you stand behind everything that you are sending to me or to your group of writers and all of that? And I'll also say for anyone who's querying people, I think that there's many different stages of what a win can be, right? Even for working writers, like you sell something, fantastic. You develop a new relationship with someone, also fantastic. A lot of the times you're going to get, really like this, not for me, what else do you have? And I think sometimes that can be tricky if someone doesn't have multiple pieces or multiple polished pieces, because if I don't know somebody well, I'm going to judge them on every single piece that's put in front of me.
Right.
And so if someone's like, oh yeah, I really want, a mermaid project. I don't know why I said that for whatever reason. And they're like, I want this. And someone says, oh yeah, I've got it. And they give it to me. And it's something that they've written 10 years ago
Right.
and does not match their skills as a writer today. That's what I'm going to think about.
Right.
So, I would say that too. But yeah, I think and also going up, if you're writing your originals and you're going up for writing assignments and you both know that game can be so long, whether that's in working with producers to get something done. So a lot of the writing process or work process isn't just fingers to keyboard. So it's about what else is going on in someone's life. And I try to think of, kind of call it like 3 buckets when someone's evaluating projects of their time.
Love it.
So it's sort of like, okay, something comes to you. And 1, how do you drive with it creatively? Does it light you up? Do you love it? Do you not? Can you say, I can sort of find my way into it? Just see where it is creatively. Second thing is just money. Just plain and
Right.
simple. Is there any on the table?
money.
Where is the,
She loves that bucket.
She loves that.
My favorite bucket.
Overflowing
It's
bucket.
my favorite bucket.
But yeah, is there money on the table?
Yeah.
If not, then how close is it to being on the table?
Yeah.
Look at that. And then the third, I like to say, is currency. That's not money. And that is, will this project, is this with working with a producer I've always wanted to work with?
Right.
Does this work with a piece of talent I've always wanted to work with? Does it, is this going to move me forward in some way? Does this get to build my skill set, my network, ideally both? And so ideally you're looking at that and it's all 3 buckets, right? Not 2 out of the 3, And sometimes people just, a job's a job, right? You needed to buy your house, send your kid to college. I don't know, it's like all this stuff. And that's just a choice you make for yourself. But, those are things that I think are worth evaluating whenever there's a project coming to you, and especially balanced against your own, right? And you can think about it for yourself too.
That's fire. I agree with you. I think if I could do it again, I would have had 2 strong pilots before I got a manager. I had 1 and like a spec, but I do agree that I think the first year, because I only had that 1 piece, made everything move a little slower than I wanted to. And I think the moment I got more scripts, the more I could navigate more general meetings.
Yeah.
Because you are right. It's like, this company might be looking for an hour long and all I got is a 30, or they're looking for a drama or whatever it is. Like, I do think having multiple strong samples, a couple, is beneficial. Like I definitely, like, whenever people ask me like, should they have a manager, I'm like, yeah, but like, how many strong pilots do you really have? Like, how many pieces are actually placing in contests and shit like that? So yeah, I do agree with you.
Yeah, I will say though that I think for you, then you got to work with your manager to think about the new ideas, right? Because I think sometimes, we all get those query letters that have like 20 different log
Don't do
lines.
that at all. Yeah, we told them about that.
No. They keep doing it.
Yeah,
They stay
Episode
doing
2,
it.
y'all know, do not put 20 log. I've had somebody ask me, like, I was like 1 or 2 log lines, 1 really, but they're like, no, but I got 20. I'm like, bro, do not put 20.
Also,
They're
there's
not going to respond.
no way you have 20 good scripts.
You
I'm
shouldn't
sorry.
have
Right.
20.
If you're unrepresented, trust you do not have 20 good scripts.
You'll be surprised though how many like up and coming writers, like the new script, like on Twitter it'll be like 1 week new script, I got another script. I'm like, golly, bro,
Right?
you are a machine.
Yeah, I mean, that's not me. I don't have that
Yeah, I don't have
issue,
that either.
fortunately. But I think that also, like, Jen mentioned something that's interesting, which is like, okay, Jen assigned you, Jen's now your rep. You're the writer. You've just finished a new draft of like, you've just finished for the very first time a new pilot or a new screenplay. For me personally, I'm never sending my rep a first draft. Never. I am sending it to a friend to read, or I'm sending it to my writers group. Like I'm doing like a second, a third draft, and that's the one I'm sending my reps. Like, what's your feeling about that?
Yeah, I do think it's great for every writer to have a community, right? A support and to get other eyes on that draft. But I will say to a point, because going back to the expectation part of it, I think if you are in the trenches with another group too long, then by the time I get my read in, if I disagree,
True.
then I think, and understandably, you're already sitting there going, I've done 10 drafts of this.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted and I don't do any
Yeah.
more notes. And, but
Yeah.
that's the first time I've seen it.
Yeah.
So, I think hopefully before you're off to write something, you and your manager are on the same page, about what you're writing next as a jumping off point. Awesome. But I think that there's a point, and scripts are never done, right? It's like, how close can you get to be able to share it and have other eyes on it? But I think that there's some kind of place, and also depending on the groups you're in, kind of thinking, where is that feedback coming from? Am I still getting structure notes? Am I still getting character notes? What is it? Is it someone keeps saying that the sky needs to be purple? What is it? But there is a point where I really just want to get the script before it gets too embedded in a rewrite process.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
We're just
Happy medium.
scared that you're gonna read our first draft and be like, "Why did I sign this person?"
Yeah.
Like, that's the
that's the fear.
thing. Is like, as writers, we are just so
Insecure.
Yeah, we just feel like we just been bluffing the whole way, and they're gonna find out. And I agree. It's funny because I feel like I'm in a script right now that's taking way too long, all because I avoided my manager for way too long. Like, I should have just gave him the shitty draft and just been like, all right, let's work on it. And instead, I'm like doing all the sides, and sending it to other people, and it gets back, and it's still like Act 3 still don't work.
Is
You
this
know
the
what I'm
script I'm thinking of?
saying? It is definitely the script that is the nail in my thorn.
God.
But hopefully it'll be a hit. And it'll be all worth it. But yeah.
Yeah. I think it's and I totally hear you, right? I can't, it's your, like, people, when they say, like, oh, it's business, it's not personal. In our
Right.
business it is, and when you guys are putting your soul on the page and you're putting so much of yourselves, I get that. It's so hard to give it to anybody and
Yeah.
then have them do it. And I appreciate the thought and care that goes into it to come to us, right? But I think there's also, there's a way of presenting your script to your rep instead of saying, because I would rather have somebody, and I've had that experience where people just stop returning my calls for a bit, or
Yeah.
it's like, what's going on? Like, I was so scared. I didn't want to give you, I'm having problems. And I'm like, okay, that's when you need to talk to me, because
that's
I'm
a
either
good
going to
point.
tell you to take a step away from this one, go write something else.
Yeah.
I don't know, go like
Live
take
life,
a run.
yeah.
Yeah, go do something else and let it simmer in your brain. Go take a nap, or your subconscious is working on it. Like, whatever you need to do, because something, if it's not, there is, I think, times when you want to push through and break something, and other times you just need to step away. And maybe it's the right character, but it's the wrong story, or vice versa. But I think there's a difference between giving your manager a draft and saying, it's genius. It's done.
I don't,
and,
I don't ever do that.
Make room on the shelf for a new award.
That's wild.
or honestly saying, it's like, look, I was struggling with this one, and I'd really, and sometimes I ask someone before I read this, or even someone, is practice pitching me, or before I ask them, I was like, is there something you want me to keep in mind?
Yeah.
Is there something you want to think about, or do you want me to clean read? Or if you want me to think about, if this is what you're having problems with, I will think about it as I read.
Yeah.
So, I think, like, let us support you, because that's what we're here to do.
So basically, we should stop being scared that, like, you've read these amazing scripts by us, and then we have this one that we feel like a piece of shit, and it's rough, that we shouldn't be that scared about that one thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's because it's about the journey, it's the relationship,
Yeah.
it's about, then again, if someone's not putting in the work and I keep getting scripts that aren't great, then that's a whole different scenario.
Yeah.
But if I know someone's working on it and I know we're in it, is that relationship, then, I think it's important to have that conversation, because, it doesn't sound like in this instance with this script, it's not like it got better, like you needed help to break, which everyone does, right? It's, but yeah.
I like it.
Now, what are, like, Jen signed me. I'm a client now. What are any of the things that I'm doing that make Jen, my manager, say, this isn't working out? Like, it's time to end this relationship.
Oh, interesting question. Let me think about that. Well, I do think it's, valuing feedback and communication, right? And everyone works differently, but, I have an opinion just as much as anybody else. So when I've had situations of you're going to do this, this, and this, I'm like, okay, well, I'm not. It's not a paid service. Like, I'm going to give you my opinion, and we are going to talk about it and why. Because if not, why am I your manager? Right? Why am I your rep? Right. Also, I think recognizing, I think defensiveness can be hard. Oh. And when I say that, it's, I understand that there's a lot that goes into the work, right? And it's a very vulnerable thing to put someone, in there. And just to say that the person that you're working with, the right manager, is someone in your corner. They're not giving notes or saying something just to be contrary or mean or, all of that, because, we want your success too, not just because we care about you because you're clients, but also if we want to go back to the money conversation, 10% of zero is zero. Right. So we want you to build and grow too. But I think it's something where the notes that we give aren't just going to be about a creative choice. We're thinking about what's going on in the market. We're thinking about the poster, the trailer, the marketing of it. And I think that's a thing too, that for writers, in this business, it's not just you're for hire person, like you are your own businesses.
Facts. Yeah.
So you have to be the CEO, the marketing person of yourself, right? And so thinking about that of instead of having someone, wait to give you something or whatnot, it's like you're generating because you're your own business, and we are a part of building that too. But you will, and hey, maybe you want to build out your own production company one day, or whatever you want to be doing. But I think that mindset of it too is really important. And just understanding that the whole marathon, not a sprint thing. And I think as you grow in your careers, for everybody, you see the trades, and sometimes like, why that person? Okay. Right. But it's about your own game, your own lane, and knowing that if you're giving everything you have and you are mindful and you're learning and you're growing, and you're doing your part with the networking and the building, that it's all one thing.
That's dope.
It is. It's respect. It's a circle. It goes around, You get it and then you give it.
It's karma.
There you go. Full circle.
What do you think is sort of like the most appropriate the most appropriate way for someone to end their relationship with a rep, or for a rep to end their relationship with a client? Like, is it, I'm not going to say a warning, but it's like, is it a conversation about like, oh, this isn't working for me, and then we keep trying to work together and then it continues not working, then we end it? Or is it just like, we're ending it now? And is it a phone call? Is it an email? Is it an in-person meeting? What do you think?
Is it a text?
Is it a text?
A post-it?
Is it a tweet? Is it a public tweet? Is it a piece of IP?
For my new script, firing your manager?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I think it's like, you have to ask yourself first where you are emotionally with it. When you go to somebody, it's like if you're doing a dating relationship, right? Is this a discussion or is it a decision? When you're talking to someone, and are you willing to hear what they say? Or are you emotionally so past the point that you're done? Right? And that could be, it could have communication, all that. I will say, don't ghost, on either side. We've talked about it earlier, and I've heard that of stories of people being ghosted on, rep side. It's just like, come on, just be an adult, have a conversation, respond back to an email, all of that. I think it depends on your relationship of how long it's gone back and all that. But I think do the respectful thing, because you would want someone to do it for you. So yeah, and I think it's about also thinking about what you need, and do you think that person can give it to you, right? Is it a style issue? Is it a support issue? Is it, what's the problem?
Yeah.
I think that is worth thinking about.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we never have to think about it over here. It's inevitable though. It's inevitable. It happens. I mean, I'm on my third set of reps, so it's like, I think that's not irregular after you've been in the business for a certain amount of time. And sometimes it was like, I'm ending the relationship, and sometimes they're breaking up with me. It's like dating, no one wants to be dumped, but like sometimes you do get dumped.
I agree.
Yeah, but ultimately, either way, it's for the best,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If it's
Totally.
for either party. So I think it is about, being honest and along the way. And, I think, and this is also when, the support of other writers and thinking about it is saying, this is a problem for me. Is it just me? Is this the way relationships work in this space? What are the expectations again? Because no matter, what our lists are, we all are going to be, busy or pulled in different directions or other things. Like, what is the issue? And is that something that's workable? But I hope, like with any relationships, my clients feel open to having that conversation with me if something's bumping with them. And then, I can sit with it and have an honest conversation back.
Yeah, I do feel like you got to have like a conversation. Like, you know what I'm saying? Where to me, I feel like it would like, and I think you should be having conversations with your reps anyway. Like sometimes like, like for instance, it's like, I don't feel like I'm getting any traction. Is it this piece of material? Do I need a new piece of material? Like, what do you think? Like, I do think writers got to be more, instead of sitting back, just like waiting for the manager to, do everything, like be proactive, to be like, hey, like, and sometimes they'll be like, well, you know what? We were going to have a conversation soon about, like, I do think it's time to have okay, great. Now let's get to it. Instead of like waiting for months and like being like, it's not working. Like, and then being like, all right, I'm done.
Right.
Like, cause you could fire your manager, get another one that had the same problem.
Very true.
So just like in a relationship, it's like, you could be the problem. Right. Like, you know what I'm saying?
There's
like,
a common denominator here, everybody.
right. Yeah, like, so anyhow, I do believe in talking to your reps,
Jen, let's talk about what's been inspiring you lately. What are like 3 things that you've either watched or you've read or you've listened to that you sort of thought like, oh, I wish like I had produced that, or like, I wish like, one of my clients had written that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I thought you were more I was like, I really am into sound baths lately. That was really
Oh, for real? That's tight?
Yeah.
That's something.
I found that really inspiring.
We like sound baths too. Have you done any like on the beach, or like are you in an enclosed space? What kind of sound baths are you doing?
I'll do them virtually because I like it when they're in the headphones. So,
Nice.
but just other settings. I mean, I think anything to just kind of clear your mind and ground and,
Back to that self-care from the beginning.
Exactly. Like whatever
to.
it is for you, I think that's really important to be, all of that. The body, mind, and soul thing, right? It's like what's going to feed you. And as creatives, you get to feed yourself with that. Sometimes you just need to take a break and take a minute and take a walk or something.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm trying to think of something specifically. I don't have anything
What are you
else to mind
watching?
right now. I'm reading a lot more right now.
Okay, good.
What are you reading?
Gosh. Well, sometimes I read things that aren't quite related to, or, I think there are related to work, but like Sarah J. Maas,
Nice.
who's, The Court Throws Roses, but I was reading her spin-off series and just getting into that. We'll read short stories, and sometimes, I'll look for...
Wait, where do you read the short stories? I'm like, I gotta find
there's a
these short
site.
stories.
I think there's a site that.
Wait,
has
but I mean, are
There's
they?
sites, but libraries. So you
Libraries.
remember those things? I love a library.
Oh my
I'll
God.
go to a bookstore.
So is
and
it like a
something calls
book
to
of
me.
short stories?
I have books of short stories. I
Okay.
have a to be read shelf, and I'll go look and see.
So we're gonna be
you
publishing
know,
short
authors
stories.
that I love and see
Yeah.
and
Okay, amazing. Any podcasts that you've been loving lately?
I think The Town is always really interesting. And that goes back to being a student of the game, right? For anyone listening to this right now, to anything, it's just the more information that you can have and just becoming a student of the game. And our business is changing so drastically right now, so quickly and in just real time.
Yeah.
Like week to week, there are changes
Yeah.
that I feel like the more you can listen and be aware. And that sometimes it's just understanding it's not just you, right? It's a really rough time for all people in a lot of different ways right now. So, I think an understanding that, an acknowledgement of that for everybody, that it is hard, can go a long way, instead of just saying you're just trying to grind and you don't feel like you're moving anywhere and all that stuff.
I agree.
Amazing. Jen,
Great.
it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for being our guest on Two Writers.
Talking shit. But before we go,
Oh,
what is
sorry.
do you have a
Didn't mean to
Twitter?
wrap
Do you have
up
a
like
Twitter
that.
or a way to? I'm just saying. We skipped.
Oh yeah, we skipped the like. Where can? Do you want people to find you?
Yeah, but like
online?
where can you be found?
Where
Yeah,
can, where can one-
I have social media accounts. I don't I'm often not posting on there, but if people contact me through LinkedIn or just find my email and you can email me. I do look at the query letters and I can't respond to everyone unfortunately, but I do give a look and no, I think it's to be a writer and put your heart out there and to be a working writer, takes a lot. And so, I think I appreciate you guys doing this podcast and helping everyone out.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you have a Twitter, Jen?
I do. I don't even know what the handle is.
Oh, okay. So you're not really checking the Twitter. Okay, you know what? We're going to direct people towards your LinkedIn.
Yes.
There you go.
Jennifer's a professional. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and come with the correct LinkedIn portfolio. I just updated my LinkedIn actually.
I need to update mine.
Yeah.
Okay. Till next time.
Two Writers.
Talking shit.
Bye.
Bye.
Two Writers Talking Shit is an original podcast created by Melanie Mars and Saeed Crumpler. Our producer is Kayla Guess. Our audio engineer is T. Kelly.
Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you damn well please. All we ask is that you subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and give us a glowing review.
If you're not going to give us 5 stars or any glowing reviews, then why even log on? Save your rants for an open mic.
If you have any questions for us, and I do mean any, you can email us at twowriterstalkingshit@gmail.com. That's the number 2, and then writerstalkingshit@gmail.com.
See you next episode.
Bye.